Hello, Living Word family. We are glad that you've joined us on YouTube. We want you to be a part of this message that touches your life every day. So on behalf of Pastor Pierre, my wife and I, we are glad that you're engaged. We want you to subscribe because there's so many messages on here that you could listen to on your leisure. We are glad that we're able to serve you. But we also want you to go to our website. When you go to our website, you will find a lot more information, even the sermon outlines. And also, you can provide an opportunity for you to see a list of our materials, books that you could look at that meets your need, and you could share with other family members or friends. We could also give. As you give to Living Word, you know us. When you go to our website and you do that, we use those funds to serve the agenda of God for the glory of God, and that allows us to serve you effectively. So we're glad you're here with us. Subscribe, be a part of this, and I pray you join us again and keep involved as God so leads you so that we grow through these times and are coming out of it better than we went in. Thanks for allowing us to serve you.
Pastor gives me some freedoms when he's gone, and supposedly he's serving the Lord in the Bahamas. We trust in his integrity. I'm just joking. I'm joking. Well, he's actually, pray for him. He's actually preaching right now in the Bahamas. Been preaching all week. I think this is like his 7th teaching or preaching message. So just continue to pray for him, lift him up. But today is going to be some freedom. That's something God put on hopefully my heart and yours as we take a little quick breather from our marriage and family series, and we focus on something singular, something that many of us wrestle with, and that these verses spoke to me, and I wrestle with, if that's okay with y'all. So if you don't mind, stand real quick with me. Let's get into the Word of God. I'm reading y'all's faces. Either you're confused as all out, or you're just contemplative on the Word of God. But I want you to read this with me, because this verse spoke to me in my devotions, and God, by God's grace, he allowed it to turn into a sermon. Verse 5 of Psalm 118, from my distress I called upon the Lord answered me and set me in a large place. The Lord is for me, I will not fear. What can man do to me? The Lord is for me among those who help me. Therefore I will look with satisfaction on those who hate me. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. You may be seated. Let us pray. Dearly Father, we are excited to get in your word. My prayer is that this silence in the sanctuary is not because we are tired. It is because we're excited. That our hearts are ready to receive your word that you so delicately put to me. But then you also kind of punched me in my gut a little bit and reminded me of who you are, that you are for me. So God, I do pray right now that all of us in the sanctuary can be encouraged. For those who have been discouraged by people, discouraged by powers, discouraged by government, discouraged by leaders. But today is a good day to remember who is for us. My prayer is that whatever you've done in my heart will pour out. My prayer is that my heart is pure, so every word that proceeds out of my mouth comes from your purity. So God, I pray for the hearts of your people that there is nothing that distracts them from the word of God. There's no instance or situation or even man-made distraction that can get in the way of a God-made lesson. So God, we are excited about what you're going to do. Thankful. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So raise your hand if you're from H-Town. Okay. Raise your hand if you just, you're 5 years into this new summer that anybody that's not from here. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, let me at least talk to you for a second, H-Town. What do you do in the summer? Now, you always can tell when somebody is not from here, Houston. They be wearing like long pants in the summer. The ladies don't wear sundresses. They dress like they go into business attire. If you from Houston, summer is hot. This is not shocking to us. We hit 101, we melt and come back to life. You can't kill us. We were built for this. Our body sweats on purpose, knowing. But there's one trick of the trade, Houston. How do y'all know this? We don't walk nowhere. Am I lying? If we got to get in the heat, we are working from one AC system to the next AC system. You got techniques for how you start your car. Many of us have automatic start. We hit that AC before we even get in there. Many of us know not to wear short pants in the hot sun because that leather be burning your thighs. We got techniques for this. And we know that we're still going to hit heat though, right? You can't avoid the heat. Your best thing that you can do is go from AC to AC. You're not going to be able to get out of your stressful moments is what I'm saying. That the sun is still going to be hot, Houston. We know this. But for some reason, Houston has figured out we don't sit around and talk outside. We stay in our refuge because we know it's better inside. We know it's better to stay from one place to the next place, knowing that God, or better yet, AC, is in the place of comfort. That we can feel better. That when we're in one spot that has AC, it's better than standing in the heat. I also will say that there's certain people who like to talk to us on the outside. They don't get that we hot. Ma'am, sir, if you see the bees buttoning up on the top of my head because I am bald, stop talking to me. Let's work our way to the what? Inside. I guess what I'm trying to say is some people in your life will try to keep you in the heat. But if you know who your God is, you're going to work from one God shelter to another God shelter. If you know that you can't avoid the heat, though, so you're going to do everything you can to get back in the refuge of who God is. You're going to call on your AC guy, and we're going to talk about that in a second, if you have to deal with the heat. But the problem with many of us is we forgot who our AC guy is. We forgot that we're working from one AC to the next AC. Some of us are standing outside and trying to wipe our faces and our brows, and I'm like, no. If God is for you, get back to the place where you belong. Some of us are not in the place where we belong. You in some distressful moments. So let's dive into the text because we have a king who's writing a psalm. And if a king knows where to go, the question is, and he has all the resources available, how come we don't know where to go? And how come some of us are standing in the heat trying to talk to man when they can't solve your AC problems? So today we're going to learn what's a better place to be at. We're going to learn of a God who's for you that some of us have forgotten, have started to rely on man-made solutions. Some of you have said, hey, you know what? God ain't got it, I got it. Or my boss got it, or the government got it. And I'm going to remind you, hopefully in a loving way, that the king said, if the king ain't got it, and he had all the resources at his hand, then how do you think you got it? But let's go to the first thing. He says, I called on him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about y'all, but if your AC go out, we call the AC guy. Now, some of us try to fix things ourselves. That's on you. But one thing I've learned about the AC guy is the AC guy, he's the one that goes in the attic. Yeah? Have you ever seen them come down from the attic in the summer? Boy, they be dying. Their whole shirt, pants be drenched because they have to go into the heat so you can stay in the cool. This is what I love about God. He's willing to go in the attic for you. He's willing to climb up into the attic. He's willing to get all drenched in sweat because when he comes down, you stay in the AC. The issue is that you got to call him, though. Some of y'all ain't calling on the AC guy. Some of y'all going into the AC unit yourself thinking you're going to fix something. You don't have the qualifications. But God does. And it says right here, the king knew. He says, from my distress, I called. In my heat, I called. So for those who are in the heat, the first question you should be asking is, what does distress mean? So let me identify with you real quick. The word distress just simply means this: extreme anxiety, sorrow, or pain. Now, I don't know how many, I'm not talking about anxiety, how we have defined anxiety, but anxiety just means constant worry, overburdened, overwhelmed. But you also got to go all the way to the New Testament where it tells you that you are overly concerned for what God has. So when he's saying I'm in my distress, he's saying I'm in a place where I am overly concerned, burdened, sorrow, and in pain. So I don't want to look into your hearts right now, but I do know that many of us have experienced what I've experienced. I know our church has experienced sorrow and pain recently. I know families are out there experiencing sorrow and pain, and I know many of y'all are worried about something. So if you're worried about something, the king says, I'm not going to sit here in my distress. I'm going to call on somebody. So the question I have for you is, who are you calling? Because you can call a plumber for an AC problem, but that ain't going to get fixed. And some of us have been calling plumbers for AC issues. We keep calling our husband, our wives. We keep trying to get somebody else, a friend, a text group. We trying to make people gods. We're trying to make them solve problems. And then the other person feels the pressure. Now you got a plumber in the attic not knowing what he doing. Only thing they can do is sweat, but they ain't going to fix your AC. So we have friends in our attic thinking they going to fix stuff in our lives. They feeling a whole bunch of pressure, but they ain't supposed to fix nothing. But let me go a little deeper with distress, because distress means that it is either external pressure, which the king could have been facing with enemies around him, like your coworkers at your job, your kids at your house, your husband or wife, your singleness, the dating pool, whatever it could be external. But distress also can be internal, as I said. So therefore, you're not, I don't know how many of y'all need to hear this, but you're not excommunicated from this message. Because either we have external problems, or some of us are dealing with internal problems. Some of us have people in our life that are enemies, and some of us have internal issues because of enemies, because of circumstances. Better yet, because of heat. Some of us are sweating in our seats right now, not because it's hot in here, because you recognize the distress you've been under. And today is my job to make sure that you leave this place stress relief. Because right here he says this is not only that, it's great trials. Now, I love the old school sanctuary. I love being in the sanctuary with experienced veterans because y'all have been through some trials. This king has too. Y'all been through something. And in going through something, guess what has happened? You've had to learn who to call. You know what I learned about this real quick? Some of us already know who to call. How many of y'all have a Rolodex of your favorite mechanic? Right? The hardest thing to do is find what? The right mechanic. Some of y'all have the person that fixes your AC. Some of y'all have the person who fixes your plumbing. Some of y'all have a cousin you can call. Some of y'all have an auntie, uncle who can fix stuff. You know who to call because they've done it before. Oh. But if you know who to call when you got a problem, how come some of us ain't calling on God when you got a problem? So I guess what I'm asking is, how many of y'all need to put down your phones and start getting on your prayer life? Let me add to this, because he uses a word in the Hebrew. He uses Yahweh. And if he's using Yahweh, he said, I called upon who? The Lord. The Lord meaning Yahweh. I'm calling upon a divine name. Remember we talked about last week, if you were here, he called him master, which just means you a good teacher. Some of us, we call on a good teacher on Sunday. That means it's a good word. I needed to hear it. That's not what Yahweh is. I'm calling on a divine name because man can't do nothing. See, when it's divine, it's not manly. I don't call you master because you're not a man. I call you divine Lord Yahweh because you're the only one who could solve it. I'm calling on the right mechanic. I'm calling on the one who's trustworthy. I'm calling on the one who knows the problem and ain't going to overcharge me. I'm calling on the person who looks at the engine and knows what to do. Some of us have forgot who Yahweh is. Because if you did, you wouldn't call the wrong person. And if you did, would you be as distressed? Some of us, the anxious is because you don't have faith in the right person. Now, let me explain. Because I was reading Matthew chapter 6, and he was talking about anxiousness and worry. And I don't know, right in the middle of that, if you read it, Matthew 6, verse 25 down, if you read it, he says, oh, ye of little faith. What is he saying? If you believed in me, if you believed in the person who could provide, then why would you be anxious? Sometimes your anxiousness is not because problems are overburdening, it's because you forgot who takes your burden. Sometimes your worry, your sorrow, your grief is because we are grieving in the wrong way. Some of us have forgotten to grieve in a godly way because we have to believe in a God who solves and comforts you in a time of need. The Yahweh name carries. You know, I love it because when I'm fighting with my kids, they call on the wrong person. I'll be having a good time fighting my boys. But for some reason, I'll be beating up Carter, tickling him, and he calls on Pierre. What's Pierre going to do? So there's no fear. Pierre runs in the room, does the same couple moves. He jumps on my back. I flip him over. I lay on top of him, lay on top of Carter. I'm trying to keep the weight off, but obviously they a buck, not even a buck yet. They 90, 60, 40. I just lay on them. Because they what? They called on the wrong person. Sometimes people are laying on top of you. You feeling overburdened because you're calling on the wrong person. You can't lift me. Now, if you would have called on the right person, I don't know who that is. Because them kids, they ain't got nobody else. Natalia, I'm not going to lie. Natalia, she built right. I don't want to tell her that. She don't get a little puppy head, but she built right. She could push me a little bit. I got to act like it's not working. But watch the second part. It says, the Lord, did he not answer or he answered? He answered. So your job is to call. It's his job to answer. You can't do it. You just got to press the number. You can't go out and do it yourself. So therefore, it's your job just to get on your knees at night, pray for your wife, pray for your husband, pray in your singleness, pray for your boss, pray for your jobs, pray for the ministry, pray for the church. You can't fix anything. It's only your job to call. The only thing you know and believe in is he's going to answer. And when he answers, things happen. And that's where the rest of the passage takes off. See, I had to spend some time setting the scene that a king had to call on a God because a king couldn't even solve it. So if a king has to call on a divine name and we regulars, then therefore we should all be calling a divine name. The beauty is that when you call on it, some things happen. But you got to check out the word placement. Because he didn't just say he answered and just said hello. He didn't just say, what's up, you good? No. He tells you what he does, but only he can do. Watch what he says. And set me in a large place. Now, some of y'all expect me to start hooping and hollering at the large place is your savings account. And when you leave this church, God's going to set you in a large place, a large house that you can go 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom. This is not what it's saying. I want to paint a beautiful picture that the king is saying, I'm on the edge. I'm so distressed. I feel like I'm looking over the edge. And I feel like I'm fixing to fall to the abyss. But when I called upon the Lord, he took me from the edge and set me in a large place where I can move. Pay attention. That some of us feel like I ain't got to move left. You've tried everything. I'm on the edge of my life. I've tried everything. I'm on the edge of my sickness. I've tried everything. But there's only one divine name named Yahweh that can take you and set you somewhere else. See, you've tried. What he's saying is I was in a tight spot. And how many of y'all feel like you're in a tight spot? You feel like, hey, man, my marriage can't get fixed. My finances can't get fixed. All the church things can't get fixed. This government can't get fixed. I'm in a tight spot. And God is saying, I take you from the tight human spot where only you think humans can put you. But because I just don't see your spot, that means I'm not limited to your space. I'm not limited to how you feel. I'm not limited to what space you even put yourself in. I'm not limited to how you put yourself in a marriage constraint. I can see large places beyond you. And I can take you from your tight spot to a large spot where you got the ability to roam around. See, this is the beauty of the text. He's not even saying, I'm going to put you in a money spot. I'm going to put you with financial spot. I'm going to put you with the ability to move again. See, the broad space means that there's a large open space, like a desert where nothing can get in your way. It also means that I took you from a military crisis to victory. I put you when the enemy had your back against the wall. Somehow I took you from the I can't win this war to a place of victory. Now we roaming around. Now we claiming what's ours. And then it said, I took you not only from a spacious place, I took you to a freedom space. Oh, how many of y'all feel like you ain't free? Like even your faith makes you feel like you're constricted. How many people explain faith to you like it's a non-free space? Can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do this. No. And all the legalism that creeps into, and God is like, no. I put you in free spaces. I put you in spaces where you have the opportunity to obey. The last time I checked, when he created the Garden of Eden, what did he say? You are free. Just don't do this. God puts you in what? Freedom. Free will. Your choice. In large spaces. The question is, we put ourselves in the abyss. We allow enemies to make us feel like we're on the edge. That's not where we're supposed to be. So today I want to give you freedom. Whoa, better yet. Today I want you to be reminded that God gives you freedom. Even in your worst spot, Even in the spot where you think, oh, I can't be free here. Even at your job where you think the boss has control. Even at the last thing you thought, I ain't got this, I ain't got that. Stop thinking like you ain't got it and start remembering that God has it. It ain't tight with God. You are free with him because he doesn't function on human resource. The reason why some of us think we tight because we keep banking on human resources. And you know how I know that? Because the rest of the verse starts talking, saying, if he for me, who can be? Because it ain't humans no more that can strain me because I'm in a large spot. They can't even get close to me because I'm functioning in my spiritual freedom. It doesn't mean it's physical. How many of you ever been broke and happy at the same time? Shoot, I'm going to say this. Some of us were happier broke. Because we were less dependent on the money to come in and more dependent on a God who provides. That some of us were like, hey, God gonna do it. God got it. He gonna put me in the space. He already provided this. He gonna provide that. But when we got money, we started feeling like, oh, I gotta earn a little more. Just a little bit more, I'll feel safer. I feel like I'm not against the edge anymore. Oh, a little bit more. If I can do this, if I can fix that, if I can, and God's like, you forgot who gave you the open space. I guess what I'm trying to say is if he don't function like that, why do you? That means you're calling on the wrong person because the last time my AC guy came over, we functioned in AC. You know what the foolish thing would be? It's for the dude to tell you when he walks down from sweating in your attic and you to turn off the AC. That'd be the dumbest thing. Right? You wouldn't want to be like, well, I don't trust it yet. Let me warm it up. No, fam. If you hot, what's the first? You cranking it down to 70. You believe. Doing non-Guyanese things. You know who doesn't believe in air conditioning? My parents. I don't know what's up with Caribbean people. They believe like wind is going to come through. I was like, Dad, we ain't in Guyana no more. There ain't no wind. It is Houston hot. And he was like, 78 should do it. For who? Only my dad functions like that. And no offense, it's not like we had old AC units and we were just hoping they made it. No. I'm not talking about what we're dealing with right now. I'm talking about an AC that worked. House built in 2000. It was only 2001. But that's how we treat God. God be like, I'm going to set you in a new spot. But like, I don't trust it yet. Let me see if I can put myself against a tight spot. Because I'm used to being tight. I don't like freedom. Some of us function in our marriages like that. Like God's like, hey, be free, enjoy your marriage. No, last time I enjoyed myself, he didn't love me or she didn't love me for who I was. I'm going to put myself in a tight spot. In my singleness, I'd rather function in this tight spot. I'm not going to put myself out there. I don't want nobody to reject me. I'm going to put myself in a tight spot. And God's like, but I gave you freedom. The only thing I told you is find a good man, a godly man. That's the only thing I told you. You've been the only one talking about, well, I guess. I don't think so. I mean, he does love Jesus, but. I ain't going to say too much more. But he goes a little further. He says, I set you in a free spot. But it's only divine help that creates this because he shifts gears and he says, okay, well, then who is for me? He says it repeatedly. Watch the next couple sentences where the Lord is for me. But I'm going to read the rest in a second. Verse 7, the Lord is for me. Same name. Doesn't change it. Because he's fixing to put it into paradox. Because now he's introducing to you, I called on the Lord is for me. And then he starts introducing this thing called man. But the question is, what does for mean? You know, I was traveling with my son. We had to split up because we were functioning on pastor's miles. He gave us some personal miles to get to Washington, D.C., got home at 2 o'clock last night, and I'm telling you, but we got home, right? But one thing I loved about, I had to take Carter, Monica had to take the older two on the first ride up to Washington. And I was watching Carter just function in the airport. And I ain't mad at him. Meanwhile, I'm shuffling everything. It was 3 o'clock in the morning when we had to get there, our 5 o'clock flight. I don't never check bags, but I had to check this one. I was upset. So now I'm sitting at the kiosk while everybody's standing at the same kiosk trying to get this thing happening. And I watched Carter. Carter wasn't tripping on nothing. Meanwhile, I'm like, boop, 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 boop. Hey, come here. Boop, boop, hey, stay right here. Boop, boop, boop. Hey, touch the bag. I don't even know what else to do. Carter was just chilling. I'm over here stressing, sweating. The lady walked away. My kiosk turned red. I'm like, come back. I'm like, we ain't gonna make this flight. Carter don't care. Carter like, hey, when we gonna get there? I'm like, fam, we got 2 more stops and we on the cheap tickets. It says basic economy. You know you broke when the thing flashed red at the kiosk and it says make sure they don't got bags. I was like, you gonna check me like that? God, she came by and did this. I was like, man, this is serious. You making sure we know we broke. It flashed red. Everybody knew you was broke there. You was like, man. But then we got to the security line. Now we finally dropped the bag, and I'm watching Carter again. He ain't worried about nobody else. If you know Carter, he always dancing. 4 o'clock in the morning, he just like this. Meanwhile, I'm taking off shoes. I'm like stripping things out of my backpack. I'm just trying to make sure it happens. He's like, I only got to take off my shoes. I'm under 12. Chilling. You know why? Because he with his daddy. Daddy got that. I don't even got to worry about a bag because all he was doing was holding his hands. He ain't had nothing. Meanwhile, I'm backpacking, big bag. Dad got that. He ain't worried about man. He ain't worried about security. He ain't worried about the kiosk. He ain't worried about the lady. He ain't worried about basic economy. He ain't worried about nothing. And I started wondering, why don't we treat God like that? If God is for me, I don't have to do nothing but dance. I can come to church free. So when they start worshiping, my hands are up because I remember God got this. God is for me. Now, you can even do the security line. I ain't got to take off my shoes because I'm under him. You can even tell, hey, you got to search that bag. You can search God's bag because he got a deep one. But other than that, I'm just going to sit over here and dance. And I started wondering, like, why do I feel so constrained? Because I'm walking through the airport, and I'm not even on basic economy because my God functions in first class. So at the end of the day, I should be sitting here relaxing and just enjoying life. Why? Because I'm free. He says, if he's for me. What can man do for me? What can security do to me? What can the kiosk lady do to me? I'm with my daddy. I just wish some of us function like that. Some of us function like we got to get through the airport ourselves. Like it's on you. Because right here, he's finna say, it ain't on you, it's on me. Because if the Lord is for me, he sets you up. That I have the advantage. But he says, if the Lord is for me, I will not, watch these words, fear. So he hits the distress word, and now he hits the fear word. So I'm going to define fear so you can recognize that you don't have fear when you're dancing. Doesn't even matter if a security guard come up to you, you just dancing. Why? I don't have no fear of you. I'm with Dad. And right here, the word fear means what? That fear is something that causes you to be apprehensive. It immobilizes you because it affects your activity. I am so scared that it affects my activity. I can't move. All right, now pay attention. Because up here, like, I don't have no fear. Many men walking around like they know. No, man, can we just admit we scared too? Many decisions we make because we're scared. We're scared if we can't provide. We're scared of not being the man you want. I'm going to talk to you for a second. We're scared that you're going to see our flaws. We're scared that if you see enough of our flaws, you're going to be angry at us or leave us because somebody else left us in our life. So we don't move at all. Ladies, you have your own fears too. You're scared if you are your authentic self, he'll leave you too. You're scared if you have to identify with what you have to fight against in this media, that he'll leave you too. We have women that walk around functioning in fear. But then let's talk about church. How many of us come in here scared, hey, this pastor going to end up making a mistake sooner or later? This church going to fail me sooner or later. Somebody going to give me an evil eye sooner or later. I'm just prepared for it. See, some of us, we're prepared for people. We're not necessarily prepared for what God going to do. Because we function more on fear than we function on faith. And how do I explain that? Because some of us haven't moved yet. Your marriage ain't moved yet. Your singleness ain't moved yet. And you're like, well, Pierre, I'm not scared of nothing. Okay. Because sometimes that same word is the same indication you are scared. We put up walls because of fear. If I'm lying, how does the government function today? They just make you scared of everything. Some of us, we don't move because we don't know who to trust. Some of us think, yes, we go vote. I'm not saying don't vote. You know we believe in voting here. But some will believe like, oh, man, I ain't going to do nothing because the government's going to do whatever they want anyways. So, if he's talking about a king, he's also knowing he has power over government too, right? So how many of us are functioning with immobilization? How many of us haven't moved? And I really want to ask you that hard question. Men, when's the last time you moved? When is the last time you led like God called you to lead? When is the last time you functioned in God's confidence because you know God is for you? Ladies, when is the last time you moved with confidence? Believing in who God made you to be. Believing in that I don't care what man has to say about me. This is how God made me. When is the last time you said, hey, I know what God has for me. I know he's going to put me in a large place. Why would I be scared of you? But we'd rather not move. And sometimes I look at Living Word, and I'm not saying because we growing by God's grace, God is a faithful God, but I wonder if God looks at Living Word, he's like, y'all moving, but y'all move at a snail's pace. I got so many gifted people in this church, but they ain't moving. They too scared to commit because the last church and the last person and the last this, and I'm not going to serve. And God's like, move if it's for me because I'm for you. But I know that may hit some soft spots, but the word fear continues to go downward because he's saying, hey, don't be scared of no man. Have you ever read the verse where he says that fear, what can man do to you? He's not in control of your eternal what? Destination. That he's not in control of where you end up. Now, he may cause some distress in your life, but he can't change your destination. So don't get me wrong. Is there moments in your life where man can get in the way? No, because they can't get in the way of the destination. They can make you go this way. They can detour you, but they can't get in the way of where God's taking you because the Lord is what? For you. The best way to put it, if I'm talking about a king and an army, hey, I'm going to face an army. They're not going to give me the city. So this is the problem. Is if we're talking about a king and he's talking about an enemy, you're still going to have them. The reason why I think many of us don't move is because we believe when God's in something, we don't have opposition. And God's like, no. I'm not saying man ain't there. I'm not even saying there won't be a war. I'm not even saying you won't have loss. What I am saying is if I'm for you, you still going to win. See, I wonder how many of us haven't moved because we're waiting on perfection before we do it. And we only see God in it when there's nothing else in it. And God's like, I never promised you that. Just because I'm in something doesn't mean something else won't try to be there. That's Satan's whole job, is to get in the way of God's movement. It's up to Christians to believe that even Satan can't stop God's movement. That there's still going to be an enemy, y'all. Let's just lay it out there. He's not saying don't fear, they're not there. He's saying don't fear them, they're present. Let's stop with the belief that just because God is moving in your life, somebody or something won't get in your way. Just because you're spiritually growing doesn't mean the next person has to. So stop waiting on somebody else to confirm what God is. Stop waiting on somebody else to say, oh, God's here with you. No. God is telling you, fear me. That's it. Yeah, now if wise people confirm, amen, because he says wise people will confirm your gifting. Well, we can also hopefully speak into where we believe. But at the end of the day, the only one who can say, I got it, go, is God. But for some reason, humanity, I'm going to use the word humanity, has always fell short of fearing man. How do I know this? Look at every battle in the Old Testament where they started to believe the other enemy was going to win. They started doubting God's provision and victory. In Hebrews 13:6, it also talks about, hey, don't worry about human resources. I am not limited to what man has. Jeremiah 1:8 confirms, he says, don't be scared of man. He's telling Jeremiah as he commissions him, hey, they're going to do what they do. I'm still sending you, though. This is the crazy part that many of us have to get. Just because he's sending you to a place where there's opposition doesn't mean he didn't send you there. Men, just because he called you to lead your home doesn't mean your wife always going to be on board. It doesn't mean that she's going to be like, yes, let's go to church every Sunday. And I'm going to reverse that because sometimes it's the men. Just because you choosing to change your life, ladies, doesn't mean that God ain't giving that allowing opposition from your man. Because God going to talk to you too. And he's for you too. It ain't a singular for. It'll be the most sexist sermon if like God is only for the men. Ladies, just do your best. Let's see if you make it. What God has for you. But when he says it, I want you to say it with me. Just read it with me. Because I want you to believe it. I will not fear. What can man do to me? 2 Kings 16, 5 through 7, Isaiah 7, 1 through 13. He talks about the belief that man can't affect the purpose and plans of God. I know, you're like, Pierre, now you're just getting into a little teaching moment. And I understand. Everybody wants to be excited, and I get it. But I'm going to teach this because it hit my heart. The only thing, my job as a Christian is to be in the purposes and plans of God. It's the only thing you do. That's why you search the heart and mind of God. Because I just want to be in your will. That's it. I just want to be in your will. That's it. The simplicity of our life is to be in the will and let God do the rest. Now, how do I know that? You got Moses sitting on the mountain. And he like, God, you want me to lead all these people? Do you see them down there? And he says, I'm with you. Guess what Moses said? Hey, I'm not going nowhere until I know that you're going with me. But then he's like, well, show me. And then God gave him a little, like I always call it, little sparkle dust of glory. I wish that more Christians would pray like that. I ain't going nowhere unless I know you with me. Because if you with me, what can man do to me? The biggest thing you could do is stay in the will of God. And just say, God, can I just have a glimpse of your glory? I just want to stay where you are. I'm okay with the rest. Are you okay with that though? Because here's the thing. You know what I've learned about Christians? We don't even ask God if he's there. We just do. Some of us have gotten so cocky in our faith that we believe we're God. We believe that, oh, God gotta be here. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. Some of us think we so deep in our faith because we've been at Living Word and getting taught our sermons for 20 years that you can't be wrong. And I'm like, how many of us pray to God for the small things still? See, hey, God, should I buy the car? Not, can I afford the car? Are you with me in this decision? God, should I go to this doctor? God, what are you doing with this surgery? God, what are you doing with these kids? Because if you're not with me, I can't lead a family. And some of us wake up in the morning, stretch our legs, think we all healthy, walk out the door like we got it. And I'm like, when's the last time you said, look, God, I ain't moving until I know you here? Well, some of us don't even pray before we. God, just give me a glimpse of your glory as I walk. Because every step I make, I want to make it with you. See, I'm guilty of this, y'all. That you get into a moment where you do ministry for so long, you study your word, you get your master's in theology, you start thinking you know the next move. And for some reason, some of us think we can get ahead of God. I'm being real. I'm talking about myself. That some of us think we can get ahead of God's plan. You know how hard it is to push God? God, come on, I know what you're doing. Just let you go faster. Give you a situation. They were in the desert, and he said he provided for them, didn't he? A cloud in the day, fire by night. How dumb would it be to get in front of the fire talking about, man, we're going to do it today in the darkness. All right, let me get out of the way of the cloud because I want to get this heat. But some of us do that. We hot because we get out of the cloud. We hot because we in front of the fire. Stay in your pocket. Because when he's for you, ain't no man can get you. I know I'm using Exodus a lot because Exodus speaks to me. Then they go what? God leads them to a place where their back is against water on purpose. You know what Moses told them? Be silent and watch God work. See, I love Moses. Moses got a little confident, but not in himself. He started to realize that staff works. It turned into a serpent. I picked it up. It stopped. So he could do anything with this stick. But they don't believe it. Because they forgot if God is for them, that Egyptian army coming, they can't do nothing to us. I mean, even if our backs are against the water, even if we're in distress, even if we feel like we're on the edge of our life, God is like, I can split waters. The problem is some of us look at the sea and forgot God can split it. So you don't feel free because you keep banking on humanity. You keep thinking God is limited to human. And God's like, I can use a stick and split a Red Sea. Better yet, I can use a stick and fix your marriage. Stop looking like you have no place to go. I have a place to go. The last thing you need to check is if I say go left, which he did, Moses went left. And if I say go left again, which seems like a circle, I'm going to go left again. Even if it feels like it don't make sense, I'm going. Because at the end of the day, as long as I got you and I got the stick, we good. So some of us need to start learning our Bible because that's your stick. And you need to start saying, God, wherever you are, I am. And even if I feel like I'm on the edge, I'm a little bit in distress, I see the army coming, I'm stuck against the Egyptians, I'm still. Because if you're for me, Red Seas can go. Water can't hold you. Egyptians are going to die. But not because I raised my sword. Not because these people can fight. Because you're going to close the Red Sea on top of them. But how do I know that? Because it says in the next verse, he says, not only is he for me, he's saying, what can man do to me? And he says it again, the Lord is for me among those who what? Can help me. You know what the word help means? It means to stand by you. I got up this morning, and the first thing you think about as a preacher is what? I only got 4 hours of sleep. But then I remember the sermon I'm preaching. That God says, if you in my word, I'm going to stand with you. So you think you need man-made resources and rest. You think you needed 8 hours in order to preach my word. God's like, no, you missed it. You just need me. Because it's my word. You don't need sleep. Some of y'all are blaming your attitudes, your emotions on your sleep. God's like, stand with me. I'll stand with you because I'm your help. Oh, man. I'm not saying you won't have to lift weights, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying you got to spot them. The last thing you do is leave it on the rack. And some of us are looking at the weight of our lives and just saying, well, I ain't going to try to lift today. And I'm like, no, because God's behind you saying, I got your spot. But I'm going to see if you're going to try to lift it. Some of us haven't moved because we're scared of the weight. And I wonder sometimes if God can't do big things in your life because you won't even lift the weight in the first place. I wonder if some of us are limiting ourselves because we limit what God can do. He's a spotter. And the last time I checked, if he's spotting you, he could lift it by himself. He doesn't even need your push. He just wants to see if you're going to try. I look at marriages and singleness and I look at jobs and I wonder how many of us have said, you know what, God, you can't fix this. You can't fix my singleness. I'm going to be lonely for the rest of my life. You can't fix how I feel. You can't fix my anxiety. You can't fix my depression. And God's like, just lift the weight. I'm going to stand with you. I'm right here next to you. I haven't left you. If I'm for you, just stay in my will. You can't fix this. I just need to see if you have no scare. You're not scared. Stop fearing and have faith. But faith means you got to move. You can't stand there. And I ask and I look at some of us and say, how many of y'all are standing still? How many of y'all are really, let me say this word nicely. How many of y'all haven't moved in your faith in years? I wonder how many of us are in the same spot you were 10 years ago. Faithful member of Living Word and a faithful member of Living Word. That God has called you to greater things. And I'm talking about moving membership. I'm talking about leadership. I'm talking about God is saying, hey, when are you going to start helping and facilitating classes? When are you going to start using your voice? When are you going to start serving in different capacities? I am not limited by what you think you're gifted for. But we over here talking about, well, I'm just going to, look, you know what? God bless me with parking lot ministry for the rest of my life. I mean, it's good for weight loss. And I'm not talking down on our parking lot ministry because they be working. Let me move, though. Therefore, you got to get this, man. I'm trying my best. I know I'm working this thing exegetically, and I'm going word for word, but bear with me. Therefore, I will look with satisfaction. Y'all hear this? On those who hate me. I want to get this place in my life where you hate me, but I look at satisfaction with you. Like, I'm speaking to myself, y'all. Sometimes I'm too scared of people. Like, I am. I'm a people pleaser. So whatever you want, I try to make it happen, even if it exhausts me, because I don't want people to hate me. You know how hard sometimes it is to be, this might be too transparent. Sometimes it's hard, man. It's hard. In leadership, you don't want people to hate you. But I got to remember, leadership ain't no popularity contest. But it is a God thing. And if God is with me, sometimes people going to hate me. But I want to get to a point in my spiritual walk where you hate me and I look at you with satisfaction. You know how cold that is to be like, I hate you. All right. That's okay. Pastor will be back next Sunday. You can deal with him. That's okay. But you know what the word satisfaction means? You got to turn to a couple of texts to find this definition, and I'll be quick. It means I look at you with triumph. I look at you like I already won. Do you get that? He's not even looking at you like, I'm good. Because many of us do that thing. When we hate somebody and they know they hate us, we like, I don't even care. I don't even care. Knowing it hurt, right? Like knowing you want that person to stop rejecting you. Knowing you want that father to always accept you. Knowing you want that mom who hated you or said some words against you to finally approve you. You know it. We all believe it. So he's not even saying look at people who hate you and do what? I'm good. I got over it. Nah. Because when God's in it, he says you look at your enemy like you won. Look, I want to get to that point in my faith where even if my boss hate me, I still win. As long as I do what? As long as I fear the Lord. As long as I'm in his will. As long as I'm in his pocket. Look, that is the end of the day. You can look at like, I'm going to win. So I can look upon you with satisfaction. You can't hate me. But at the end of the day, if I'm in his will, you hating what God's doing. So I don't have to worry about me losing. Some of y'all are walking around like you lost. And some of y'all are losing on your own game. Because you're doing your own work. According to your logic. According to your intelligence. According to your bank. And God's like, no, because you're still going to lose. But if you do it with my power, when you walk around the walls of Jericho, you just get to walk. Because I already won. Can you picture walking around the walls of Jericho and be like, man, I don't know what we're doing, but something going to fall. That's what I want to be like. Now, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but he got me here, so we just going to walk. He said, blow trumpets, we going to scream. Cool. That's what I want to be like. Because I don't care who's inside the walls. I'm already won. Because he said he gave us the land. But you also got people who never made it to Jericho. Because they started to complain. They started forgetting who God was. Shoot, they even built a calf while Moses was on the mountain. And some of us, I'm looking at you, I'm like wondering, hey, even Pierre, how many of us are so scared of the Egyptians, we still think about them even though we won already? Did y'all hear how many times they were like, we should go back to Egypt? Why are you still thinking about the enemy God defeated and looking at them for victory? Why are you still looking at your exes if you're single? Why are you still looking at your father who who's going to have to live with his regret? Why are you still looking at your mother? Stop looking at them. Look at them with satisfaction. I won because God got me here. And if you do look at him like, I still won because God got me. God was a father to the fatherless. Why do I care? I won. Some of y'all are sitting in the sanctuary because you already won. You walking around defeated. Walked into church like, I don't even know. You won. You're here. You woke up this morning and God was like, you won. Do you know how many enemies could have been looking for your life, but they can't get to you? You don't even know how many victories he's already won. You don't know how many times you woke up and you were supposed to be sick. God cleansed that already. You don't know how many victories you already won. And some of us walking around like, I don't even know. And God's like, wait a second. I'm victorious every time. Start looking at people who hate you and say, I already won. But not because you're cocky, not because you're confident, not because you're self-righteous, because God got it. He's for me. And if you ain't with him, you're definitely against him. And when you're against him, good luck. I want to get there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying I'm there. I just want to be there. Let me finish. It is better. This is my favorite part. It is better. This is what we're going to conclude. He says it twice. To take refuge. I ain't got a lot of time. It is better to take refuge in the same word, in the Lord, than to trust in man. Do you get this? Like, this verse speaks to me. Because he's saying, you know what the word refuge means? And I know y'all got a lot of definitions. You can pull the notes off whenever you want. The word refuge means to cover and to hide. To put yourself underneath for protection. He's saying it's better to hide in me than to trust in man. You don't have to fear. Because it's better to be under my wings when the storm comes than be out there on your own. Y'all don't know this, but Living Word's an amazing place, but I'm going to explain what I'm fixing to say. I know my theme of ACs is going to carry. I don't know if y'all know this, but second service is going to have to move to this sanctuary because the AC sadly went out. We tried to fix it before Sunday. It just didn't work out. They're missing a part, all that. So I came in this morning, and I was just like happy. And they were like, we got a lot going on. We got the ushers out to be stationed. Ushers are working hard today. We got the parking lot ministry going to be working hard. We got deacons who are working hard to make sure nobody feels like, hey, we didn't tell them or we didn't warn them. We tried our best. But then I started thinking, like, why would we be sad? Name another church that can move from one sanctuary to the next sanctuary. And what I guess I'm trying to get you to understand is this. We had a refuge. And we got another refuge. My point is, even if that goes out, even if we feel like we stressed out, God is saying, I provided you another one. See, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not worried. I'm thankful. Because it's better to hide than to be trusting in somebody to fix something before Sunday. I guess I'm trying to say God has a sanctuary for you, ladies and gentlemen. The question is, do you want to be in it? But some of us are putting our trust in man. We'll work on a Sunday before we come to church. And I'm not playing about that. Some of us said, I'd rather get more physical sleep than spiritual rest. I'm not knocking nobody online. I don't know your reasons, but I will say that some of us have made decisions banking on getting more sleep on a Sunday to make you ready for Monday and saying, I need to be with the Lord so I can be ready for Monday. Some of us have said, hey, I'd rather hide in my own sleep. I'd rather hide in my own house than take refuge in the Lord. And I'm going to be blunt. I've seen some people show up to church and they're grieved. I'm not going to call no names. I don't want to put no highlights where people feel like I'm pointing them out. But I've seen people with cancer show up on Sunday. I've seen people during COVID wear a mask with cancer. I know you're like, well, Pierre, that's risky, and that's up to you. I'm not saying that you had your freedom to make that decision. You have your large space to make that decision. But I ain't gonna lie, it spoke to my heart. Because it made me ask, I ain't got a reason to miss. Because they saying, God, I'm in your hiding place. I'm safe in your spot. And my life is in your hands. So I'm gonna sleep here. I'm gonna worship here because I'm safe here. I'd rather trust in man than them doctors. I'd rather trust in God than them doctors. Now, I'm not saying be ignorant. I'm not saying be unwise. I'm not saying you're a hero. What I am saying is that sometimes we got to believe that if God has life in his hands, sometimes we're putting our trust too much in them doctors' hands. Like, where does your trust lie? And you know what hit me one day? Is that when we were praying for a gentleman for a miracle, and then when they said, hey, you got 5 minutes to figure out if you want to put him on life support, and then it became 30, and then it became 24, and then it became we don't need it no more. I started thinking, like, the doctors still don't have the answer, so pray for that. I ain't lying. But he ain't on life support. Their solution wasn't the end. So for me, I'm starting to figure out, do you still believe in miracles and hiding in under? Do you still believe that God can do something that you can't do? Because I don't know. I know I had to pray with confidence. I walked into that hospital, saw my little man just out. And the only thing I had left was to pray because the doctors ain't giving me nothing. So I started saying it's better to hide. Today, some of y'all uncovered. You cold because you took the sheets off. Cover us up. Get under his blankets. Get back in his AC. I just want to read it with you as I close. We're done. It's better, again. It should become a song. To take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. He's saying from the commoner to the man, ain't nobody greater than God. Like, you can't even trust your boss, but you sure enough can't trust the president. I guess what I'm saying is, that sounded bad. I guess what I'm trying to say is what? It don't matter who it is. It's better to hide in the Lord than to trust in your vote. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying to trust like God is going to change, or so they're going to change something before God can. Like, it's better to sit there, God, I'm going to hide here, and to trust in even the highest of power in this world. Some of y'all watching the news at 6 o'clock every day thinking we're going to die every day. Some of y'all, I be getting them calls. I ain't going to say from who. Be like, now, lock 3 times, knock your door twice, because now they knocking doors once, and they going to come in and rob you. I'm like, man, stop. Like, I can't keep up with how many robbery tactics they got. Don't bend down in the parking lot. Don't pick up a receipt. They'll get you. I can't. I don't know what else to do. Houston robbers going to get me at the end of the day because they just come up with new tactics. But it's better for me to sit here in fear and not move than to sit here and hide in God. Today you are protected. Today you got rest. Today you can hide. But stop trusting in the power and the resources of man. What can they do to you? I was at the pool, because you know when it's hot, you know what else we do? We go to the pool. But I loved it. My kids were young. We was at the pool. You know, they couldn't swim yet. But I would get in the pool first. And all 3 of the kids are different, and I got to go fast. Natalia, no fear, loves the water. Pierre, I'll talk about him next. Carter, no fear, loves the water. So me and Pierre had to have a conversation. Daddy's here. No, Daddy's in the water. You can see, Daddy's standing in the water. Daddy's in the water standing. Just reversing sentences. Daddy's going to catch you. Daddy's going to get you. I'm already here. Daddy can hold you. You remember the time Daddy held you in the air and threw you on the bed? That's the same power I got to hold you. Hey, you remember when Daddy could throw you all over around the room? That's the same Daddy that's in the water. And sooner or later, he started getting to the edge. Kind of did this. He looked at me, checked on my safety, and finally closed his eyes and let go. I guess what I'm saying is you might feel like you're at the edge. Some of y'all even testing the water. But sooner or later, it's the same God who threw you in the air and caught you. It's the same God who's going to catch you again. It's the same God who is in the water before you got there. Because when you learn to not trust and just jump into God's arms, then you get the large space of the pool. So now when he finally got in the pool, then he hung on to my back. Then he was no longer constrained to the 4x4 kiddie pool. Now he could be in the big pool. And Daddy could hold him while he practices his swimming. Telling him, hey, kick, just kick, just kick. And today I'm telling you, God got you. But stop playing in the kiddie pool. Some of us got to get over here. Just kick. I just need you to kick. God got you. Just kick. Go back to your marriages. I need you to kick. You're going to be in the big pool now. I need you to kick. Kick your feet. Try. Trust me. Let go. Jump in the pool. Because there's a large space that some of us ain't functioning. If you're in the concrete of your faith, jump into the pool with a good God. He's there before you. Let us.
We are excited that you have joined us, and I pray this message touched your life. We pray that you enjoyed it. We pray that it impacted your heart, and we hope that you would subscribe and continue to grow with all the messages that are here. You can find a sermon outline. So we're glad you enjoyed it. Look forward to you coming back so we grow together. Thank you for blessing us and for blessing your life by allowing us to serve you.